If you're looking for week one fantasy football rankings, we got you. Quarterback and tight end coming up right now. TFA fam, welcome in. It is finally upon us. Week one is here. It is time to throw away the mocks and all that stuff. It is time to set lineups. It's time to start the trash talking. It's here, man. Tonight we are going to go through our quarterback and tight end rankings. Really quickly, I just want to mention this. Stay tuned at the end because we will have our weekly schedule for you guys, but we know you want to get right into it. So, Kev, let's just go ahead and jump into our top 12 quarterback rankings for week one. You have Mahomes, Lamar, Kyler, Hurts, Russ Wilson, Josh Allen at 6, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Dak Prescott, Ryan Tannehill, Herbert, and Matthew Stafford at 12. And I have Brady at 1, Kyler Murray at 2, Mahomes at 3, Hurts at 4 as well. We both have Russ at 5. Dak, Josh Allen, Ryan Tannehill, Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson I have all the way down at 10, Matthew Stafford, and then Justin Herbert at 12. So whenever you're going through your top 12, how did you pull these out? What guys are you interested in? Who is hardest for you to rank? Things like that. Talk to the folks.
Yeah, I mean, so for one, I mean, week one is always the hardest because we just don't really have any data to go off of, right? Everything's all of what happened last year or kind of how you felt about these guys heading into the process. But I think for me, it was pretty simple, at least at the top. I mean, Patrick Mahomes going against Cleveland. This is a home game for them, rematch of the playoffs last year. And so, I mean, it's really hard to not ever put Mahomes at 1. And this week is no different. Lamar Jackson at 2 going against this Raiders defense. Yes, the Raiders defense is going to be a little bit better than what it was last year, but I'm still not all that concerned with it. Lamar Jackson is still going to get his. And for the most part, they're going to have most of their weapons in the passing game outside of Rashad Bateman. Kyler Murray at 3, simple for me. Jalen Hurts is probably going to be the one for both of us that people are going to look at this and be like, whoa, Jalen Hurts at 4? Are you kidding me? Listen, this is a fantastic matchup. It is one of the best, is one of the highest totals on the slate in terms of where Vegas has this game, and I absolutely love this game altogether. Fire up your Eagles, fire up your Falcons this week because I think this matchup could be a absolute barn burner shootout. And so I love Jalen Hurts. The offense is relatively healthy. Offensive line is healthy. We know he possesses 100 rushing yards every time he steps foot on the field because of how dynamic he is as a runner. So I love this matchup. I love Jalen Hurts this week. So if you draft Jalen Hurts, this is a great week to start things off with him. From there is Russell Wilson, Josh Allen. Now, we do have a few different major differences. One of them, I want you to tell me why you have Lamar Jackson as low as you do. But before you do, because you also have another one that's where we have a pretty big gap, is where you have Tom Brady at 1, and I have Tom Brady at 7. Now, for me, Tom Brady, this is a good matchup against Dallas, no doubt. I mean, Dallas' defense isn't anything to be worried about, and it is a Thursday night game on the road. But for me, just the guys that I have ranked ahead of them, it's all guys that have rushing upside, right? And so for me, it just makes it really hard to put a guy like Tom Brady over them. I still think Tom Brady's a great play this week, make no mistake, especially going against Dallas. But just putting him at 1 is pretty spicy. So I want you to tell me why you have those two where you have them.
So for Lamar, it's simple. I just like the other guys ahead of him a little bit better. I know he possesses that rushing upside, same way with Jalen Hurts, where he can rush for over 100 yards every single time he steps on the field. We also haven't seen Lamar with these pass catchers for the full offseason because we have to remember the receivers were hurt a bunch. Lamar was on the COVID list again. So I do think that the secondary is the Raiders' weak spot, right? They brought in a lot of pieces I like on their front seven, so I think they could contain him. Lamar's still going to get his, but it's just a case for me that I like some of those other matchups better. And with Brady at 1, I think he absolutely dissects this defense and just absolutely crushes them. The Cowboys' front seven is probably their strong suit, and their secondary just absolute poo-poo doo-doo butter. So I think he just absolutely cruises through, cuts through them, and I think Dak is going to be able to do enough that they're not just going to be able to rely on, Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette to bleed out the clock and do that sort of thing. I think we see Brady come out and just absolutely crush this defense. That's why I have him at 1. I'm not going to be surprised if he goes for 350 and 4, something like that. I think he just absolutely destroys this Cowboys defense. So that's why I have him up there 1. And then all the other ones below him, the Cleveland defense, I think they keep this a little bit. Mahomes is still going to get his top, have him top 3. But I think the Cleveland defense looks good enough on paper that I think is going to be a little bit closer than what I think a lot of people are going to expect from this matchup. And then Dak was the guy who I kept going back and forth on. But like I said, I think that the Tampa Bay secondary is probably it's flip flop for the two, right? I think the Tampa Bay secondary is their weak point, and their front seven is obviously completely full of studs in that and very stout up front. And then Josh Allen, I kind of went back and forth on as well. Ryan Tannehill, I obviously really like, and I think that matchup is super sneaky with Arizona and Tennessee. And then outside of that, Stafford and Herbert, we have at 11 and 12 kind of flip flop there. But that's just, I really wasn't sure what to do with that Rams-Chicago matchup. And I do think that, with Herbert going up against the defense he's going up, that's one of the, I guess, matchups that I'm most interested in just watching, but I'm not entirely sure how fantasy friendly that one's going to be.
Week 1's tough because, like we said, we don't really know what to expect from some of these defenses. A lot of these defenses have changed, have improved. Because, like, I was looking at some of this stuff. I mean, if you look at, like, for example, some things that I know to be true, like Atlanta, right? Atlanta's defense is still going to be trash there. They did really nothing to improve it. Last year, they gave up, they allowed the most passing yards to opposing quarterbacks and the second most touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks. And I don't think anything's really going to change there. So that's why I like Jalen Hurts where I do. But the rest of these guys, like, outside of, like, because for me, Justin Herbert is kind of a question mark this week because the Washington defense has the potential to be a top 3 defense this year. Their front seven is absolutely just a nightmare to deal with. Now, I will say, obviously, the Chargers have upgraded their offensive line. That's one of the biggest strong suits. So it's going to be it's a good test early on to see where this offensive line is. However, I think it takes some time for especially a new offensive line to really kind of gel and kind of get it really turn into a cohesive unit. So I do have some concern, and I am myself a Justin Herbert owner, and so I myself am like, man. I've caught myself peering into the free agency market just for this week to see what's out there because this is a tough matchup. Like, this is not just some walk in the park. I think for here on out, I think you feel absolutely 100% confident starting Justin Herbert. But for this 1 week, I think there's a little bit of hesitancy because anytime you're playing a defense like this Washington football team, and they even got better. I mean, they added William Jackson in the offseason as well. And so, I mean,
Kendall Fuller. Davis, the first-round pick.
Yes. And so this defense is going to be nothing, no joke. And so Justin Herbert is a very, he could be a guy who maybe only gets you 14 fantasy points this week. And so with that being said, let's move on to some of these other guys. Like, what quarterbacks would you feel comfortable starting this week in terms of, some of those guys that are widely available on waivers that somebody could go pick up? Or even if you're a guy who maybe you waited on quarterback and you didn't get one of these top guys, and so maybe you drafted a Joe Burrow, who myself, I am not that high on this week. I actually am significantly lower. I have him at 19. And so I'm
at 18.
I'm telling you not to play him. So who are some guys that you would want to play or pick up?
So the guys that I have right above him, Jimmy Garoppolo, I think is obviously in play going up against Detroit. The only worry you have there is how often is he going to be asked to throw. And then it's like something to keep an eye on too is Brandon Ayuk. I think if Ayuk is out, I'd probably bump Garoppolo down just because there's really not going to be any rush for them to throw Ayuk into this line if that hamstring is still bothering him. But ahead of him, Carson Wentz, I would play Matt Ryan. I would play Darnold, I think, is also in play. Got the revenge game going up against the Jets. They got rid of Bless Austin, which I didn't think that they had the luxury to do to get rid of one of those corners, but they did. So Darnold, I think, is in play as well. Were there any other options that I did not mention that you like?
Like, besides the other guys you mentioned, like I have to emphasize again, Sam Darnold is 100% in play. Like, I know it doesn't feel good. It's one of those like, man, I don't really feel good about this. It's Sam Darnold, right? Like, but it's going against the Jets. There is the revenge game narrative, but all the weapons are there. He is surrounded by the best offense he's ever been around, and it's not even close. And so, listen, and this offense is probably going to be much more fast-paced as well. Like, that's something else we should talk about with this offense, because last year, they were near the bottom in terms of pace last year. But I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that, one, the team that they had, but mainly because Joe Brady and this coaching staff was new, right? And so it was their first year, much like we saw with Cliff Kingsbury, his first year. I think they were like 17th or 18th in pace, but in the next year they jumped all the way up to second, right? And again, last year they were second in pace. Like I think you could very much see that, which is just great for fantasy, points, anyways. And so I do like him quite a bit. The other one I think is Kirk Cousins. If he's out there, if he's available, I mean they're going against Cincinnati again, and not a defense you're really all that concerned with. There is some concern that that they get up quickly and Mike Zimmer just does what Mike Zimmer does. Like I remember, like I don't think it was last year, but I think it was the year before. I can't remember. Where like he had like to start the season off, he threw like 13 attempts, and then it was like 18 attempts. Like that's well in the range of possibility. Okay, because if they can get up early, they're going to run the football. They're not going to pass, and that's the only frustrating part with Minnesota. You have to hope that Cincinnati can at least keep this game close, or else they are going to just completely go run heavy. And so that's why I'm not as high on him. But I do think also Ryan Fitzpatrick and Big Ben are both options as well.
Let's go ahead and move on to tight end, and we'll start to wrap this up. We're just going to go through our top 12 here. Hopefully you don't have to stray away from any of these top 12 guys we're about to mention, because it gets ugly out there, and it gets ugly quick. But Kev, you have it: Kelsey, Kittle, Waller, Mark Andrews, Dallas Goedert, TJ Hawkinson, Logan Thomas, Kyle Pitts at 8, Jonnu Smith, Noah Fant, Tyler Higbee, and then Big Bobby Tanyan to round out your top 12. And then I have it: Kelsey, Kittle, I have Pitts at 3, Waller 4, Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson, Dallas Goedert, Noah Fant, Logan Thomas, Robert Tonyan, Jonnu Smith, and Mike Gesicki at 12. So like I said, man, pretty cut and dry. We have a lot of the same guys, just in a couple different orders. I guess to start things off here, the thing I have to ask you is, why do you hate Kyle Pitts so much?
It's not that I hate him. It's just there's a few of these dudes that I just think are in just great spots. For one, let's talk about Dallas Goedert. Like I have Dallas Goedert ahead of him. And Atlanta last year was terrible against tight end position. Surprise, surprise. They allowed the 5th most receiving yards to tight ends and the 4th most touchdowns to the position last year. And so I do, and they didn't really do anything to address that. I think Dallas Goedert, if I love Jalen Hurts, then I have to love some of these pass catchers as well. And the two that I love the most are Dallas Goedert and Devontae Smith. When we get to wide receivers, whenever you guys check that video out, you'll see where I have him. And I think we were both pretty high on Devontae Smith this week, but I'm also really high on Dallas Goedert just because of the matchup that he's in. So I love him. And then, TJ Hawkinson, he's the only guy in town. He's probably going to see 8 to 10 targets here in this matchup against San Francisco. And so it's hard not to have him there. But for me, it's really close because, I mean, even Logan Thomas, I think, is in the conversation with these guys to be in that next tier past Darren Waller. Because to me, Andrews, Goddard, Hawkinson, Kyle Pitts, and Logan Thomas are all kind of in the same tier for me this week. I could kind of shuffle them around and I'd be okay with it. I do think Logan Thomas deserves to be in this conversation as well in terms of just a pass catcher. Because Curtis Samuel may play this week. I know that they said that they're expecting him to play, but we'll see. So that kind of waters things down a little bit in terms of the available pass catchers that they have there. And so I think Logan Thomas is locked into a pretty heavy target share, at least for this 1 week. And I'm not really all that scared of the matchup against the Chargers. So I like him, but I do like Kyle Pitts, but I'm not there to put him up the top 3 quite yet. We have to see how this thing plays out a little bit for him.
With what you were saying about Dallas Goedert and his matchup, you could say the same thing for Kyle Pitts. Philly was dreadful against the tight end. That's something that has plagued them for the past couple of seasons. I think Pitts, the reason why we've liked him all offseason, the same thing is true for week 1. It's going to be Calvin Ridley and then Kyle Pitts. So he's going to be second in line for targets. Matchup is on his side. So I really like him. And I hope we have his coming out party just week 1, just coming out and just smashing right off the bat. Is there anybody right outside of this top 12 range that you like? Anyone who has you interested?
I think there's a few. One, I did want to mention Tyler Higbee as somebody that you should definitely want to play this week. The Bears were terrible last year against the tight end position as well. They were top 5 in touchdowns allowed, as well as yards to tight ends last year. So some other guys that I think that are interesting this week is Gerald Everett. I do think that he has some appeal this week going against Indy. Yeah. I really like that game as well as a game I think has some shootout potential. From there, it's tough because there's guys that we like, but I don't know if I feel comfortable enough to start him this week. You have Cole Kmet, who I do really like. Not a great matchup going against the the Rams and everything. And then Anthony Ferkshire, I think is somebody. There's one other guy that I wanted to get your thoughts on, and that's OJ Howard, right? if you remember a few years ago, I mean, it was the OJ Howard hype express. Like when his rookie year, it was him, David Njoku, right? I believe Evan Ingram, right? All came out in the same class. And everybody was super excited about OJ Howard. And OJ Howard has flashed, but he's just never been able to put it all together. Injuries have really killed him. But there's been some buzz around OJ Howard this offseason, and that he's going to have a significant role in this offense. I don't know how much more of a significant role you could get with already having the 3 wide receivers, already having Gronk. But what I could see, though, is him playing more snaps than Rob Gronkowski and really kind of just utilizing Gronkowski as sort of a situational guy and trying to get him to the playoffs, right? Like, you don't need to rush Rob Gronkowski out there and have him play 80% of the snaps. Like, I could see Rob Gronkowski playing 40% of the snaps throughout the year, and they just kind of use him in certain situations. So I do think OJ Howard is somebody that's a little bit interesting as well.
Yeah, I think he could be, but a lot of what you just laid out, like, where is all that opportunity going to come from? And I think specifically in this matchup, the Cowboys have the athletes in their linebacking core to be able to match up pretty well with OJ Howard, especially coming out of the injury that he's coming off of as well. So week 1, I'm going to be interested in watching and seeing how he's used and how he looks. It's just super crowded in that room right now. And then Cam Brate has, shows up every once in a while as well. So somebody for me that if you waited really long, maybe you took Evan Ingram, you don't want to play him week 1. I think Austin Hooper could be interesting. We talked about Baker Mayfield already, and with William Gay going on IR, they only have Hitchens as one of their middle linebackers. I think Hooper could be somebody who might pop. Like Blake Jarwin, I guess you could throw in there. You want to talk about the hype train last year. Look no further than Blake Jarwin. But same way with the Cowboys linebackers, Tampa Bay has the linebackers to be able to match up pretty well with Jarwin as well. So, like I said, hopefully you have one of these top 12 guys. Any questions you have, drop them in the comments. Jump in the Discord. Ask us over there. We're always available to help you guys out. So let us know what you thought about us doing quarterback and tight end together. It's something we're trying out. Last year we split them up. So if you like quarterback and tight end together, if you want to see them in separate videos, let us know. And then real quickly, I just did want to tell you guys about the schedule that we have. Sunday mornings going forward, we will have a live show for Start and Sit. Wednesday evenings as well, we will be going live. Going to have ranking videos coming out, start sits, streams, all that stuff for you. So again, any questions you have, join us live, drop them in the comments, hit the Discord. There's no reason why you can't ask us a question. We're going to be everywhere for you guys this year. So please be sure to hit that subscribe button. We've been getting a bunch recently, so we definitely want to get your feedback as well. And until the next time, we'll see you on the next one.